Well, hello again everybody. Well, as you can see on the bench today, we've actually got something a little bit different because we've got a garden water feature. So what this consists of is a little water pump which sits in the pond, and we've also got a solar panel. So at the end of summer we actually take this and we put it away in the shed, but when we came to get it out this springtime we actually found that unfortunately the cable itself has been eaten through. So what I suspect has happened is some mice have got in at it and they've eaten the cable. So as you can see, the cable itself is actually covered in these little teeth marks, and at some point they've actually chomped their way through the whole cable. So this is one of those little marital peacekeeping jobs that we all find ourselves doing from time to time, because my wife has asked me, can we join the cable back together? Now in my experience, taking on work of this nature is somewhat of a poison chalice, because although of course it's just a very simple job, the fact remains that these things are effectively so cheaply made. They are throwaway items and they aren't necessarily the easiest things to repair. In fact, half the time what we'll do is we'll join this cable together and we'll probably find it still doesn't work anyway. And unfortunately the whole thing is actually sealed and potted, so definitely not designed with maintenance in mind. But as I said, we do have to try to do these jobs just to keep the peace, don't we? Well, luckily it does look like the chomping marks are relatively localised, so we just go ahead and we're just going to cut this piece of cable off. So I'm going to go ahead and just expose some new cable, and I'm just hoping that these cores inside aren't totally rotted through, because it's quite likely that water has got into this in the past, and you know, that's what tends to happen. Well, actually for once these copper conductors do look like bright copper, so that's a good start. In fact they are copper, because I expected something as cheaply made as this, probably to use aluminium or steel wires, but no, they are proper 2-core wiring, so that's a nice surprise. So before I go any further, I'm just going to see if this solar panel actually works, because that could bring this job to a close quite quickly. Now it appears that our cable here does plug into the back of the solar panel here, so if we plug this in we should get some power out, and in fact we do, we get 8.25 volts, so there must be a capacitor or something in here. Let's expose this to the bright lights. Will that get any higher? Maybe these photocells don't work very well under LED lighting, or maybe it's got some form of regulator inside. I've got no idea. However, let's go ahead and do the same thing to the pump part. Now as I mentioned earlier, these units are quite cheaply made, and I don't think it was very expensive when I bought it. It was about 15 or maybe £20, and my experience is these cheap water features, it doesn't really matter what you do, they tend to last about 2 years and then something goes wrong with them. Either the solar panels fail or something goes wrong with the little electric pump. So at more than a couple of years old, it's probably fair to say that this actual unit is on borrowed time. So I'm just stripping off the wires to the pump now. Oh, and I can actually see that these wires are in fact all kind of a bit corroded, so certainly see that some water has been leaking in at the pump end here. Let's see if the pump will fire up if we just join these wires together. Don't know if it's got any water in it, we'll find out I guess. Well, I think the pump did run very briefly there. Let's try connecting a power supply up. I guess it will be fine to run it on 8 volts because that's what the solar panel appeared to be outputting. So these two leads are from the power supply. Let's try putting 8 volts onto the pump. Well, it appears that the pump did actually run for a few seconds but keeps stopping. Now I don't think we can really do very much with these. I don't think they're designed to be in any way repairable. Oh, I did think this might have been a filter at one end, so maybe the filter comes off. So I can see we've got a little impeller here. It almost feels like a stepper motor, that. Whatever is in there, it's got a very powerful magnet in there. Let's see if we can see the little impeller spinning round. Well, the answer would appear to be no. Oh, there we go. Okay, keeps starting and stopping. Have we got some form of loose connection? Now both these wires do look pretty oxidised. Let's see if I can just run some solder on there, possible we've got a bad connection, although I don't think so. And again, flux is your friend, so let's put some flux on. So let's have another go. Is it going to run this time? Well, again, the answer is oh, that's interesting. It doesn't run until I touch this little metal peg here. Is that some kind of water sensor, so that this only runs when it's in the water? Can you see that? There's a little metal peg on it. Well, the pump doesn't run at all until I touch it. And then it does run. Tell you what, let's get a bucket of water and try it in there. We live and learn. Now, if you can hear some activity in the background, I've actually got my 3D printer going because I decided to try and print off a little potting box, because I think the best way to actually seal these wires together is probably to pot them in epoxy. I can't think of a better way to seal them. So here's the pump. Let's try dunking this in some water and see if it starts up. Well, now that I've put the pump in water, we can see that it is actually spinning up and it is pumping. But I've actually just lifted the pump out of the water, so we expose the metal peg. It stops. So I'm going to put the peg under the water again. And it starts. Take it out again. And it stops. Well, I have to say, I am really surprised at that a pump as low cost as this would actually have some water level detection. I can only assume that perhaps they don't want you to run this pump out of water because, one, maybe it could run over speed and damage the impeller, but is it possible that it could actually overheat if it's out of water? Well, I'm just going to disconnect our power supply here. I'm just going to try running it from the solar panels. Now, this has been in the shed most of the year, so I've got no guarantee that it will actually power this, because it might need to charge up, I'm not sure. Yep, so it does appear that our solar panel is working. Now, as you can probably tell, I am really intrigued by the way that the low water level shut-off actually works on this pump. It clearly has some form of detection on it, and I think it's something to do with this stainless steel peg here, which is sticking out the side of the pump. Now, I'm guessing that they need some form of low water shut-off. It could be to stop the actual motor overheating, because it probably needs the water as a coolant flowing through it. And it may also be that without the resistance of the water, maybe the pump could run too quickly and damage the impeller. Or maybe the impeller itself needs some lubrication. Again, that would be provided by the water. But obviously the manufacturers have decided in their wisdom that it was worth adding this low water level shut-off to the pump's operation. Now, at first I thought that the pump could be doing something very simple, like just detecting the resistance of the water between a pair of electrodes, but I can only find one electrode. And the other thing that I've found is that you don't actually need to complete a circuit. If we just connect anything to this electrode here, the pump will start up. So I'll just touch it with my finger, hopefully you'll hear it. Not sure if you can hear that on camera, but when I touch my finger to it, it does start up. Now, I still might be completing some form of circuit because I am holding the pump in one hand here. So just to kind of disprove that, I'm just going to take a clip lead, and as you can see, the clip lead isn't connected to anything. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to connect it to there. And again, the pump has started up. I take the clip lead off, it stops. Connect it up and it starts up again. Well, as you can see, I've gone ahead and I've just got out the little O1 scope, and I've got to admit I really am finding this little battery portable scope very useful. It's certainly much easier than getting out a mains powered scope, especially for little quick and easy jobs like this. So we're going to take our scope probe, and I'm just going to touch the probe to the actual metal probe pin here, and we will hear the pump will start up, but let's see what the pin's doing. So hopefully you can see that. We've actually got a triangular wave there. Can we just stop that? There we go. So whenever I touch the actual probe to the pump pin there, the pump does start up, but we can see we've got a triangular wave. And this triangular wave, it's got a frequency of about 278 kilohertz. So I suspect, again, this is doing some capacitance sensing. Now we can see that actually it is an AC waveform, and the fact that it is an AC waveform is important because, well, you need an AC waveform to do capacitance sensing, but if it was DC, what you'd actually find is you would get electrolysis occurring on this metal peg, and even though it's made of stainless steel, you'd find it would actually be eaten away, it would corrode away very quickly. But you don't get that effect if you actually put AC on the pin. So that's what they're doing, they're putting some AC on the pin. Oh, okay. I reckon that's what it must be doing. Okay, so I'm obviously changing the time constant of some kind of circuit here, so I suspect that's probably what's happening. When we actually get, oh, better stop that, don't want to overheat the pump. So what I suspect happening is we've got a tuned circuit in here, and when we actually touch this pin here, we actually affect the tuning of the circuit. You can actually see that the waveform was changing shape, the frequency was going lower. There we go. So I think that there is obviously some circuitry in here which detects the frequency that this pin is kind of vibrating at, electrically vibrating. It's not physically vibrating, but what it's doing, it's detecting the change of frequency, and it's using that change of frequency to determine whether there's water touching the pin or not. That certainly is quite clever, isn't it? So there's more to these things than I actually expected. In theory, what we've come to do today is relatively simple in that we've got 4 wires, and all we have to do is join those 4 wires together. But unfortunately, the complicating factor is that when this pump is installed, the actual 4 wires will be submerged in water. And if we get any type of water ingress, because again we've got DC on these power cables, the water will mean that these cables will get eaten away very quickly. So what I've decided to do, I guess there's 100 ways we could do the job. I've actually 3D printed a little plastic box here, and the cable can actually enter at each side of it. Now of course this plastic box, which is printed from ABS, the plastic box isn't going to be watertight, it's not going to keep the water from getting in. So what I've actually decided to do is we're actually going to put the wires into this little box, and then I'm going to fill the box with some epoxy, and that epoxy is simply just going to be some araldite, some 2-part epoxy adhesive, and I think that that should act to keep the water out. Now my experience is, the reality is, water is impossible to keep out. Anything that you try to seal will just fail. Now the saving grace is that this is a relatively cheap pond pump. As I say, the only thing only cost I don't know, 10 or 20 pounds. My experience of them is that they last 2 or 3 years before the solar panels actually eventually fail. So this thing's living on borrowed time anyway. But if I can just get it working for now, certainly that's going to earn me some brownie points with my good lady. So let's take the wire from the pump here. I'm going to stuff this into one end of the box, and I've printed the hole in it to be a relatively tight fit. Now I'm going to take the other wire, which will go to the actual solar panel. I'm going to stuff that through the little hole in the same way in the other side of the box. And again, I've just put a spot of flux on because this wire, one of the wires, is quite corroded, so I want to make sure we do make a good connection. Well, I think I'm going to use this 2-part epoxy from araldite to actually pot our little box here. The only problem is this araldite that I've got, it's the actual rapid setting stuff, in that it sets in 90 seconds. So that really isn't going to give me very much time to actually fill this box. But, well, it's all I've got, so yeah, it's got 2 choices, hasn't it? My experience of using this stuff is, unfortunately, even before you've actually finished mixing it, it's kind of gone off. So, you know, you can't spend very much time mixing it, and you're always wondering or worried if you've mixed it properly or not. Okay, so we've got a little globule of that there, and all we can try to do is start to spoon it into my box here, and I want to try to cover as much of the wires and as much as the cables themselves so that everything has got a good coating of epoxy on it. Now I can actually say I haven't really got very much epoxy here. I'm certainly going to need a lot more than this to actually fill my box up. So again, just underestimated the amount that we need here. But the main thing is just to coat the wires, to coat everything as much as possible. So So that's the first lot of epoxy gone in, and well, it didn't go very far, did it? So I'm actually going to mix quite a bit more. Okay, hopefully that might be enough. And try and mix it up quickly. It's a really powerful kind of exothermic reaction that this araldite gives off when it starts to set. I guess because it sets so quickly, it gives out a lot of heat, and it's actually surprising how hot this thing gets. They get very hot. I can see that all the wiring and the cables, they are fully submerged in the epoxy, which is what I wanted. So but I'm going to keep filling the box. And I really don't mind if it actually overflows a bit, but I did make a little lid that can go on our box as well. So can we get our little lid on? Yeah, that's squidging around the sides in a very pleasing manner. So we've got to hope now that that this epoxy doesn't actually get so hot that it actually melts through this ABS plastic that I printed. I don't think it will. And taking a look with a thermal camera here, I can see that the actual box here, it looks as though it's about 46 degrees. So yeah, getting quite hot. And I can also see in the mixing pot that our adhesive, it's pretty much gone off now and set, but we will leave it overnight before we get it wet. Well, I think that our little potting box here has actually come out quite well, but I guess only time will tell when it's actually submerged in water. What do you think? How long do you think it'll last? Is it going to work? I'm not sure. Well, I don't know about you, but I need to go for a wee. So thanks very much for watching. Until next time, bye bye for now. Bye.